Have you ever heard of snowplow parenting? It's a term that's gaining attention, and for good reason. This parenting style, where moms and dads clear every obstacle in their child's path, is becoming more common. Shocking research shows that over 70% of parents feel the need to protect their kids from any hardship. But what happens when children never learn to face challenges on their own? The reality is more alarming than you might think. Studies indicate that kids who are overprotected are 50% more likely to struggle with anxiety and depression as they grow older. They miss out on learning important skills that help them navigate life. When parents do everything for their children, these kids may end up feeling lost and unprepared when they finally face the real world. In this video, we'll explore the ins and outs of snowplow parenting and its surprising impact on kids. We'll uncover how removing every bump in the road can lead to fragile adults who struggle to cope with everyday challenges. You'll learn practical strategies to support your child while giving them the space to grow. Join us as we dive into how snowplow parenting is setting kids up for failure and discover better ways to help your children thrive. Chapter 1. Clearing every obstacle. The snowplow trap. The problem with snowplow parenting is that it's rooted in good intentions. No parent wants to see their child fail or feel pain. But it's worth asking, at what cost? Removing every bump in the road actually sends a powerful message to kids. I don't believe you can handle this on your own. Studies show that when kids don't face real challenges, they're less prepared for adult life. They grow up expecting smooth roads, but life rarely works that way. The snowplow trap also leads parents to micromanage every detail. According to Dr. Julie Lythcott-Hames, author of How to Raise an Adult, overprotected kids miss out on developing critical life skills. By age 18, they may struggle with basics like cooking, budgeting, or handling disappointment. In a 2015 survey, 30% of college students reported feeling overwhelmed with simple tasks. Clearing every obstacle teaches them to depend on others, which only delays the skills they need to build independence. Instead of removing obstacles, encourage kids to tackle challenges in small steps. For example, if they're nervous about a math test, ask questions like, "What part are you struggling with?" Guide them through it, but resist the urge to step in. Teaching kids to break down problems and think through solutions is a skill they'll use throughout life. Research from Harvard's Center on the Developing Child reveals that kids build resilience through manageable stress, meaning challenges that stretch them without overwhelming them. So next time, pause before you step in. Letting kids struggle a little helps them learn to face and overcome obstacles on their own. Chapter 2. Life without bumps. Why kids need struggle to succeed. Think back to your own childhood. You probably faced problems and had to work through them. Today's kids often miss out on these learning moments because of overprotection. They rarely experience normal stress, and, as a result, lack coping skills. A study by the American Psychological Association, APA, found that stress levels in children and teens are rising. Many lack the resilience needed to manage even small challenges. The good news? Parents can reverse this trend by allowing kids to face age-appropriate struggles. When kids solve a problem, their brains actually release dopamine, which reinforces learning and confidence. Dr. Kenneth Ginsberg, author of Building Resilience in Children and Teens, emphasizes that grit comes from having to work hard to get past something. A little frustration now can build grit for the future. To start, give kids some control over small things, like choosing what they'll wear or deciding how to organize their backpack. These might seem like tiny choices, but they teach problem-solving skills. When kids make decisions, even small ones, they're learning that they can shape their world. This approach doesn't mean you leave them to fail. Instead, think of it as failure with a safety net. A report from the Pew Research Center shows that children who are encouraged to make decisions early are more likely to become leaders later in life. This doesn't mean they'll get it right every time. Mistakes are part of the process. The key is to let them figure it out, so they know they can handle life's bumps. Chapter 3. The perils of overprotecting, anxiety and self-doubt in kids. When kids are constantly shielded, they start to believe they can't handle things on their own. This feeling can lead to self-doubt and anxiety. Researchers from Stanford found that kids raised with too much parental intervention are more prone to anxiety and depression. When parents remove every possible challenge, kids miss out on the experience of bouncing back. A Harvard study on adolescent development even found that kids who face small, manageable challenges are 50% more likely to report high self-confidence. But here's the surprising part. Kids who face these small challenges with support, rather than intervention, develop better emotional resilience. Let's break down what this support looks like. Instead of immediately rescuing your child, try to encourage them to talk through the situation. If they're upset after a rough day at school, ask them, what was the hardest part? And, what do you think you could do if this happened again? These questions help kids develop emotional language and, more importantly, self-reflection. They're learning how to process their emotions rather than rely on someone else to fix things. In her book The Gift of Failure, Jessica Lahey explains that learning to fail and try again builds confidence. She says, kids who can navigate setbacks develop a core belief in their own ability to thrive. Self-doubt can be reduced by reinforcing that setbacks are part of growth. When we protect kids from every problem, they miss out on learning that they can handle more than they realize. In small ways, help them understand that they're capable. Every time they handle a tough situation, they build confidence. If you're finding this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights and strategies on effective parenting. Chapter 4. Self-esteem versus self-efficacy. The difference. Snowplow parents miss. One common mistake in snowplow parenting is confusing self-esteem with self-efficacy. Self-esteem is about feeling good, but self-efficacy is about knowing you can tackle challenges. A child with high self-esteem may feel loved and valued, but without self-efficacy, they might lack the confidence to solve problems independently. In fact, Dr. Albert Bandura, who pioneered the concept of self-efficacy, found that this belief in one's abilities is one of the strongest predictors of success in adulthood. When parents clear every obstacle, they boost self-esteem but limit self-efficacy. Kids may feel good, but they don't learn the how-to of solving problems. Real confidence comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you, not from constant praise. Let's say your child is struggling with a science project. Instead of stepping in, guide them to brainstorm possible solutions. Ask questions like, what's one thing you could try? Or, what would you do next if this doesn't work? This approach builds self-efficacy. Studies show that children with a strong sense of self-efficacy are more likely to set challenging goals and pursue them. They're also more resilient when they fail. In a classic study, kids with higher self-efficacy bounced back faster from failure and were more willing to try again. Self-esteem is important, but self-efficacy is what makes kids persevere. In Raising Self-Reliant Children in a Self-Indulgent World, Dr. Jane Nelson explains that encouragement is more powerful than praise. Praise focuses on the result, while encouragement focuses on the process. So instead of saying, "You're so smart," try saying, "I saw how hard you worked on this." This subtle shift helps kids believe in their own abilities rather than relying on validation from others. Teaching kids to assess their own work is another powerful way to build self-efficacy. After a project, ask, "How do you feel about what you did?" Or, "What would you do differently next time?" Questions like these help kids own their successes and learn from their mistakes. Chapter 5. The Fragility Effect. How shielding kids creates breakable adults. Snowplow parenting can lead to what experts call the fragility effect. When kids are overprotected, they don't learn how to cope with stress or disappointment. By the time they're adults, even minor setbacks feel overwhelming. A 2020 study from Yale University found that students who were shielded by their parents reported higher levels of anxiety and felt less equipped to handle college stress. Being overly sheltered makes kids fragile. They haven't had practice handling failure, so even small challenges feel massive. The key to preventing this is allowing kids to experience discomfort in manageable ways. Dr. Angela Duckworth, author of Grit, points out that grit comes from sustained effort over time. It's built by doing hard things, failing, and trying again. Kids need this practice to become resilient. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine a child struggling with a jigsaw puzzle. Instead of giving hints or solving it for them, let them try and fail on their own. They'll learn that it's okay to feel frustrated, and that persistence pays off. This small lesson adds up. Kids who are allowed to struggle become adults who know they can handle tough situations. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence found that young adults who faced minor failures in childhood were 50% more likely to thrive under pressure. They had a mental toughness that their overprotected peers lacked. This toughness comes from knowing they can bounce back. Encourage kids to take on challenges that stretch them, like learning a new sport or instrument. This teaches them patience and persistence. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset shows that kids who embrace challenges are more resilient and have a higher tolerance for failure. She writes, "The process of failing and trying again builds the mental muscles needed for long-term success." Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to subscribe for more parenting tips and strategies to help your children thrive.